We are down in San Diego now. And now today might be one of our last days at the beach because we have one more interview, which we'll be doing tomorrow. And then after that, we're heading away from the coast towards Utah. We'll be stopping in Moab. We also just found out that it snowed like a foot back home. So I guess we're trying to soak up as much heat and summer weather as we can before we head back home. This morning we met up with Barney and Sandy Mann, who thru-hiked the PCT together in 2007. Then they became major trail angels for the PCT. Barney wrote a book about their hike and stories of other hikers that they met along the way, called Journeys North. I thought it was a really authentic portrayal of the social aspects of thru-hiking and the myriad of reasons that motivate people to embark on such a long walk. As we talked with them, we discovered that they had a lot of wisdom to share about hiking as a couple as well.
Walking is the most natural thing we do, and the concept of a pilgrimage or a hajj or a walkabout, I think really strikes something deep in our heart. And the big thing today is people at first blush think, I could never do that. What? Walk from the Mexican border to Canadian border? Walk with a pack on my back? And so what is a thru hike is, I think, more feeling for a moment the possibility that I could do that, or I could do a chunk of that, and it's real. And that's a big hurdle that those of us who go out here and do it actually jump over.
I feel like for me, it gave me a lot of confidence that pretty much any challenge I set myself to, or I set for myself, that I can accomplish that. But it also gives you connections to lots of people and makes you understand how important a community is.
My book, in some ways, goes back 40 years. When we got off, and the two of us, when we finished through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, I knew I wanted to write a book about it. I wanted to bring people to that experience, to have a moment to, whether you were an outdoorsman or whether you were Joe or Josephine couch potato. I wanted you to feel for a moment what it's like to be at the end of a 20-mile day, to be sitting inside a pit toilet outhouse, huddled in the corner, around your tiny little alcohol flame stove, your little tiny pot of dehydrated food boiling. You're wearing every stitch of clothing that you have, and you're happy. And that's why I wrote Journeys North. It's not a first-person narrative, which many thru hikers are. It's about six of us out in the trail. I like to say it's a cross between it's Wild meets the Breakfast Club. There you go. The hike is about people. Out there you have conversations almost every day that you might have once a year with a best friend. We're out there and we know the only way you got out here, the person I'm talking with, is the same way I did. You have sweat a lot. You got sore feet. You woke up this morning and it was freezing, or it was warm, or it's hot, and we're both sweating now. And it breeds this sort of camaraderie.
But someone was asking us about thru hiking, and after we talked about it for a while, they said, oh, so you're just kind of collecting stories, which in some ways is true. We actually, in San Diego, were pretty close to the beginning of the trail. It's about an hour and 10 minutes east of here. So we pick up hikers at the airport or the train station. We put them up overnight, feed them, and then get them to the trail early the next morning. So in 2006, we actually hosted 17 hikers. We thought we were pretty hot stuff. The year we hiked was 2007, and we hosted 35 before we started our hike. And then after that, in 2008, we hosted over 100, and it just kind of snowballed from there, and we're up to about 1,200 these days. We do it because it's so cool to be around these people. You know, they're already sort of kindred spirits. It feels really good to help them get ready or get started on an experience that, you know, we know may change their lives. One of the best things we feel like we can do is to help them start their community while they're here in our backyard. You know, they're meeting other people, and they may be really nervous, but by the time they hit the trail, they've already got, 3 or 4 friends that they're hiking with. We also give a talk at right after dinner, between dinner and dessert, so we have a captive audience. And we mostly talk about, being good trail ambassadors, taking care of yourselves and each other on the trail, practice leave no trace principles, And as Scout likes to say, we feel like we're sending a wave of kindness up the trail. Yeah.
Yeah. It was wonderful hiking as a couple. It'll test you,
Sure.
but it's a bit like...
And I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, I would say if you're hiking as a couple, you should try some shorter backpacks together first to iron some of this stuff out.
You said you had different expectations going into town.
Oh.
What were those different expectations?
So here's the deal. We actually had a rule that we wouldn't let ourselves talk about town food until we were within 24 miles of a town.
That's my rule.
I love it. Yeah. It's unhealthy otherwise. We do.
Yeah, you want to experience where you are now and
But
not just look forward.
What underscores that is that you regard a trail town, a 0 day or a narrow day as nirvana. It's going to be heaven. And can you imagine we had different visions of what heaven would be? and we realized in towns we were grading on each other because we each had some specific visions of what that was, and they weren't the same. And it took us, I think, all the way to Mammoth to finally talk about it.
To talk about it, yeah, but it was even north of that. I remember North Kennedy Meadows, we were still having issues. Some of it was specific to a particular trail town, what our expectations were, but some of it also was he wanted a little more space in town than I realized. He wanted to go do some things off by himself, and I was like, why can't I do that with you?
I wanted to be able to walk out the door of wherever we were staying, and if I run into people, I can do that. And we also, just some immediate specifics, you go in and you want to shower,
That's the first thing.
Yeah, first one shower. I don't necessarily. I like to know where are other hikers in town, and
where's the good food?
Yeah, where's good food in town? And so we had some very different expectations, and it took us hundreds of miles to finally talk about it.
The interesting thing is, I think we kind of knew what would trip us up. I think we knew what would cause conflict between us before we started the hike, and we still let it happen.
And what was that?
It was pace mostly.
Okay.
The first 3 months we were arguing about pace the whole time.
Oh no.
Like, I actually have broken up with him because it was just such a bad argument every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
But then you eventually...
You're still working on it, I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still working on it. Once we got to Wyoming, we both admitted to each other that I'm losing motivation. I gotta be honest here.
Were you going northbound?
They got off trail just at Old Faithful.
Oh, okay. So at least you got to go through the Wind Rivers.
Yes, we did. In Wind Rivers, I don't know if you know, Sandy, but we got off trail because of my knees. My knees blew out.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Yeah, the last 3 nights in the winds, I didn't sleep at all.
So you weren't
Not
really
at all.
enjoying the Wind River rain.
Yeah, I hated it.
I'm sorry. Oh, man.
But yeah, it was...
Yeah.
It definitely was an experience for us, and I appreciate the experience we've gotten to work through. We've gotten better at fighting, arguing, but it wasn't fun for me.
Yeah.
But you kept on coming back to it. I mean, 2,000, you hiked close to 2,000 miles. Why did you keep on coming back to it? Why did you keep on coming back to him?
I didn't want to give up on him, and he's been the best man that I've ever met in my life.
That's a good reason.
Yeah.
Do you hear that, by the way?
Yep.
Okay.
Also, one thing that we have come to know is that I can't expect him to read my mind. He should know that I'm feeling this way or that I'm going to react this way, but he doesn't. And it's not fair of me to totally expect that. So I have to tell him when I'm starting to build up resentment about something or when something annoys me. Yeah.
I've realized that, and I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm still working
It's
on
not
it.
easy.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. We both are still working
Yeah.
on it.
We have lots of couples start these days. And at the trailhead or leaving here, it's not unusual. We'll have a moment where they're saying goodbye and just be the 3 of us. And I will offer some advice and say, here's the deal. You're lucky to be hiking as a couple. But you are going to be in some of the most uncomfortable circumstances, trying circumstances you'll be in your life. So for the 2 of you, be kind to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, cut each other some slack.
Cut each other some slack. So you asked, why do I thru hike? And many answers to that. But it actually took some real time and was intentional about writing about it in a small section in my book, Journeys North. And so I'll read it to you. Why do I thru hike? Gosh, I'm going to tear up. There's nowhere else I feel so safe and free. 1,000 things don't tug at me like in the spider web of city life. I am my best self out there. I'd hike just for that. Once a day at least, I am dumbstruck by beauty. I pick my nose and scratch where I want. The people I meet are as astonishing as the wildlife. Not to mention the town food. 4 Michelin stars don't hold a candle to the first meal in a greasy dive after 5 days on the trail. The Jose Burger at the Paradise Cafe is almost worth hiking 2,650 miles. The cinnamon rolls at the Stehekin Bakery are even better. Why do I thru hike? I could write a book.
It was reassuring to talk to another couple who had thru hiked together and to hear about the challenges and the rewards that they found on the trail. We had a lot to ponder as we drove across the desert to our next stop in Death Valley.